Hutchings Goddard was born in Worcester, Massachusetts on October 5, 1882. He was the son of Nahum Denford Goddard and Fannie Lewis Hoyt and a very curious child. Goddard found interest in flight, which would later become his career from a young age. Simple flying items like balloons and kites intrigued him. Part of this thirst for knowledge can be blamed on his reoccurring stomach problems, bronchitis, and colds. As a result of being a very sick child, he often fell sick behind his classmates and, in the end, was 2 years behind them in school. This caused him to retreat to his local library and become quite the reader. Though Goddard was behind his classmates, this did not stop him from becoming a smart young man who would later go on to become one of the largest pioneers in aerospace engineering. As a result of this time spent in the library, Goddard discovered a book called The War of Worlds at the age 16. This piece of literature was the origin of Goddard's interest in space. This was not the only discovery he made at the age of 16. He also tried a scientific balloon experiment. For this experiment, Goddard attempted to create a balloon out of aluminium, which he filled with hydrogen. This experiment didn't take off, but it fueled his fire for engineering. After recovering from his sickness, Goddard continued his education at South High Community School in 1901. He excelled with his academics and graduated as valedictorian in 1904. After graduation, he attended Worcester Polytechnic Institute, where he earned his bachelor's degree in physics in 1908. Then Goddard became a physics instructor for a year. Finally, in 1909, he got his master's at Clark University in Worcester. He followed this while getting his doctorate degree in 1911 and completing his studies. After accomplishing these degrees, he remained at Clark University for another year, teaching and performing rocket experiments. After completing his teaching at Clark University, Goddard began working on his inventions. In 1914, his patent for his design of a multi-stage rocket using solid fuel and another one for liquid fuel were both accepted and registered. This was the first step in his invention of the first liquid-fueled rocket, which Goddard would later name the Nell. He then theorized that rocket engines would be able to produce thrust in the vacuum of space, and this became the base for all his experiments. After this, Goddard performed his first ever test of a gun-powered fuel rocket. This caused him to discover that powder rockets were not efficient in turning energy into thrust or motion. Up until this time, all rocket propulsion was run on different types of gunpowder, but Goddard later provided a more efficient and stable source for rockets. During this period of invention, Goddard created another one of his large inventions, the first ever experimental ion thrusters. Goddard thought that these could potentially be useful for propulsion in outer space. He was correct, and this is another one of his inventions we use to this day. Finally, the day came, on March 16, 1926, when Robert Hutchings Goddard launched the first ever liquid-fueled rocket on Asa Ward Farm in Auburn, Massachusetts. This rocket reached an altitude of 41 feet and lasted 2 seconds while going about 60 miles an hour. This type of rocket is still used largely today, even though it was discovered so long ago by Robert Hutchings Goddard. This first rocket launched by Goddard was later named the Nell. The Nell was a long rocket made up of a gasoline tank, alcohol heater, oxygen tank, a Bistos cone, nozzle, valve, and combustion chamber. The rocket was held in a wired cone structure, which from then it launched. On the day of the launch, Goddard and his team marched down to the launch area and lit it up. After Goddard's famous rocket launch, he also had multiple other significant impacts. In 1932, in New Mexico, Goddard developed gyro control apparatus for rocket flight, and he used vaned-in rocket motor blast for guidance. Later in his life, he also launched a rocket with motor-pivoted gimbals under the influence of the gyro mechanism. Throughout his lifetime, Goddard was featured in articles and newspapers a lot, often related to his career and work on rockets. Not only did Goddard want to create rockets, he also dreamed about making interplanetary travel possible, but unfortunately, this didn't happen during his lifetime. After leading a long and very significant life, Robert Hutchings Goddard died on August 10, 1945. Goddard's life's work was one that has impacted aerospace engineering forever. One of Goddard's largest inventions was the liquid-fueled rocket, and this has truly changed rocketry. Today, we still use liquid-fueled rockets as the main source of human missions into space because scientists can control the burn, making it safer than solid rocket propellants. This new technology allowed a safer and more efficient method of fueling rockets rather than using solid propellants like gunpowder. Through his inventions, we can now use liquid-fueled rockets to reach the heights of space exploration we are reaching today. The first rocket, built by Robert Hutchins Goddard, was an important frontier in the evolution of aerospace engineering. This physicist created mathematical theories of rocket propulsion, changing how we view rocketry today. Without Robert Hutchins Goddard and his invention of the now, we would not have rockets or be reaching the heights of space exploration that we are today.